say this, I've said it before. When you talk about journalistic integrity, when you talk about journalists you can trust, for me, maybe not for you, that's up to you. You make the decision. Tip of the spear in the gaming journalism. I like Jez. I met him in real life. I hopefully am going to meet him again this June. As he has done before on the Xbox 2 podcast with another very good friend of mine, Randolph 419, all the way from Chi-Town. Well, they do what they normally do. They put on a great show each and every week, but Jez put out some information that got me stoked. And as I'm talking about State of Decay 3. Now, State of Decay 2 has been updated so many times. It's unbelievable. The game is completely different than it was when it first launched. I put 60 plus hours into it and loved every second, but there was one component, Fuzzy Belvedere, missing from it for me. And that is a single player focused experience. Now, I get, folks, don't hold the tomatoes. Don't throw them yet. Let me give my piece. If you don't like what I have to say, throw the tomatoes. It's fine.
Throw them at me. I'm okay. I like tomatoes.
Yeah, listen. You can make tomato. You can, like they say, you can make lemonade out of lemons. You can make tomato soup out of tomatoes. There you go. When you crush it. But here's the thing, Fuzzy Belvedere. We know that there is one thing that Xbox does super well, and that is offer its fans, its consumers, multiple ways to enjoy a game, whether that be on the multiplayer side, like Halo multiplayer, Forza multiplayer, Gears multiplayer. They did a multiplayer for Fable. They've had a lot of multiplayer games. But the other side of the coin here is they do single-player dual content, and they do it well. We've seen it with Gears. We've seen it with Halo. We've seen it with Forza. We've seen it with Fable. The lists go on and on and on. What I'm hoping for is, because we're getting Unreal Engine 5 graphics, because we saw a specific female character in 2020, which I want to know her story. I don't want to know someone else's story because I like what I saw with that female character. Now, who is she? Well, we don't know, right? Hopefully, we'll get an update to who she is. What I'm hoping for in this, because I have a very strong suspicion it is going to show, and it's going to show well based on what Jez Corden had to say at June's event, which is only a couple of weeks away. And here's the thing. I want the multiplayer to be as bombastic as it's been all these years, right? People get in there as groups, as teams. They build their bases. They live their lives in this game. It's scary. When you go out at night, it's even worse, and you have fun. For me, I'll dabble in that. I'll jump into the multiplayer. Now, I'll probably run it solo like I did when I played Save Decay 2. But what I would like is a strong single-player, story-driven piece of content. It doesn't have to be 90 hours. It could be a 10-hour experience, a 12-hour experience. I want to know about that character, and I wanted a story to be told to me about characters that are in the game. What do you think? What do you think about this? You know what? Before I get that, let me read what Jez Corden had to say, so you have some context to what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So during the Xbox 2 podcast, Jez Corden of Windows Central says this. I'll put it out there that it's going very, very well and looks very, very good. Now, again, short, sweet, to the point. Jez Corden would not have said that if he hasn't seen it with his own eyes, which I believe he has. And obviously, there is some things that we have to talk about. It is going to be done in Unreal Engine 5. They are getting hands-on help and have been since the entire development process from the coalition, who are the masters of Unreal Engine. What are your expectations, Fuzzy?
Well, for me, my expectations is just that they're going to have a more modern look as far as the visuals. I love State of Decay 2. I probably didn't play it as much as a lot of people here, but I like the gist of it as far as like it's a combination of like base building, survival, resource gathering, and whatnot, and that's great. But I like your idea as far as like a single player aspect where maybe you use that as a tutorial to kind of get you through used to going out on runs for supplies or opening up an outpost kind of thing. Like imagine it almost like a mini version of The Walking Dead, where you happen to find this survival group after S hits the fan kind of thing, and they take you in, and it's like, all right, everybody has to pull their weight. You're going to be on night guard or something like that, or we need you to run, to the grocery store, see if there's anything left at that one. We've hit it up a few times. There's a handful of things left. See what you can grab from there, and bring it back as far as for our little community or neighborhood and stuff like that. So if they have, like you said, something that's 10 hours or around about that time frame that gives you like an onboarding for the mechanics in the game, that would be awesome, because that would probably get more people into that game. Not saying that they just throw you in, throw you at the wolves kind of thing when you play the game, but there are some things that you're going to want to pay more attention to, and they kind of walk you through it with the tool tips and things like, oh yeah, you have to go to the armory and check your weapons and make sure you have the right weapon with you, or put the certain foods in refrigerators, and make sure you have certain like light posts or outposts secured and things like that. But having it where it's like a single player story mode would be a cool, I wouldn't say option, but like a cool, mode for that game, where for the people that may not necessarily care for doing like a co-op experience type of thing, they could kind of get through that, live out their Walking Dead or any zombie type movie that they like, live that out in that game and go from there, but still know all the mechanics of the game. And then if they do happen to hop on with a group, play some co-op, they'll be much better prepared and not have to be constantly said, oh yeah, you have to do this, you have to do that, and kind of run here and make sure this is secure. You stand guard at this tower and stuff like that. So yeah, I like that idea. But for me, the only real expectation just from the trailer, and I know it was CGI, but we've seen that Unreal Engine 5 can deliver visuals close to that, if not better. Like we've already seen that some of the visuals for Hellblade 2, I don't know, the very first ones were all in engine. I think some of it may have been CGI in the very, very beginning, the very first showing. But we see that the visuals now are well improved over that, or well improved over even the previous visuals that we thought were where people were like, oh, there's no way that's in game or in engine. And it was. So yeah, I especially having Coalition working with them, I expect this is going to be visually, from a visual standpoint, I would say above what we've seen with The Last of Us. Now, I know people are going to come at me on that one, but Unreal Engine 5, I think it could surpass their visual quality.
Well, here's the thing. So let me just add some context to what you're saying. See, and this should be something else, right? I'm going to move this over to Gamsley, but I want to put 2 and 2 together here. What did we hear a couple of years ago when The Last of Us 2 was released? What happened? Xbox reviewed it internally, right? They looked at the game and they're like, holy shit, this game looks freaking amazing, and it played really well. The RPG mechanics were phenomenal. The weapon building were phenomenal. I hated the story. I'm not shy about that. I hated the story. It was too disjointed for me, and I hated what they did with Ellie. Just absolutely abysmal storytelling, in my opinion. Fine. But everything else about that game, you cannot argue. It was freaking phenomenal, right? So what are we Gamsley expecting for State of Decay 3? The same as State of Decay 2? Well, I certainly hope not. Because if you're going to use Unreal Engine 5 and you're going to have the Coalition doing dual duties while they're working on the next Gears, and obviously they're helping out here, there, and everywhere, you take advantage of that by giving us a very visual story that can be told. Everyone's story is going to be different when you're playing multiplayer, right? one player, two player, four player, it's going to be a great time. But where I think this game could really stand out and really shine is exactly what Fuzzy Belvedere just said. Is it going to be The Last of Us 2? No. But could they tell a story that gives you a third person, over the shoulder, adult themed look and conversation? I think it would be a missed opportunity if that is not a part of what this game is going to be. What do you think, man?
Look, I understand the appetite for it, right? I understand that we want those type of experiences like The Last of Us and God of War on the Xbox side, or the ecosystem of what Xbox is. I understand we want that, but I also, like, if you look at Pal World and you look at examples like that, like, some genres really do blow up because they're the way they are. And for this genre, like the survival kind of zombie base building kind of thing that already has a gigantic audience, and really, the sim lovers kind of love, not The Sims the game, but simulation lovers love. You don't want to divert too much from the too much from the formula. So it's very dangerous for them to try to warp in a engrossing narrative and be so big and bombastic, meanwhile keeping all of those other things intact, because that is devastatingly expensive and why we never see it, right? It's always something's lacking with these types of games, simulations and zombie and survival type things. The best they could do is just untether the players more. There are stories being told in State of Decay. There are interesting things going on. They just got to really zoom in, focus on what makes it great, improve it, and people are going to come in droves. Like, they have a hit on their hands. State of Decay 1 was a big success with a very, small population of people. State of Decay 2 was almost double or triple the size of that small group. And if they just stick to that formula, they're going to get even bigger. You could see the Souls games go that path. This is a genre that's untapped. It's untapped potential. They always get to a certain spot, then fall, and then the next one comes and it gets to a certain spot and it falls. But if they could just nail the genre, that's going to be enough, dude. Like, they don't need to overblow it.
I mean, and that's a fair opinion. One thing that we know that Microsoft is really good at, and that is gas games. It's something that has become all the rage. It's something that they do so well that they attracted Sony, and Sony changed their whole theory and thought of what their first party was going to be. And look what happened. They wound up having to backtrack. They had 12 games. Now they have 6, maybe half that. Maybe have about 3. So we don't know. Again,
can I still talk on it a little bit? Because I'm super
ahead.
excited for this game. Like, this game is unique. There's not, within its own genre, it's also unique. Like, there's not much like this. And for them to get a budget with a big publisher behind them, yes, it is scary, because you have different expectations and Sauron's eyes on you at all times, and maybe you get a little bit scared, right? But I really think if they just stick to it, man, again, like I said, if they just let you go farther, I don't know. I have a good amount of hours in State of Decay 2, but I don't remember if they tethered you heavily. Just give more freedom in like a co-op scenario or an online scenario. Give more freedom. Let the servers be dedicated and all that stuff. I'm not sure if they are at this moment, so don't at me with anything crazy. I did play it alone, but I love this game. Man, I just want State of Decay. It's not like any other game. Not a lot of games do it. So please, Xbox, just let this team breathe. Help them. Fucking shoot some money at them. Let's see what they got, because you got another hit on your hand. I mean, I'm very excited for the future, because they really do have these live service games that I'm very interested in, and it does give me that. Like, sometimes I do wish Sony actually did release, The Last of Us Factions,
online.
was it?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. It would have been it would've
something.
been- yeah.
Yeah, I really do wish they did like release that, see what happens, see the population grow with it. I really do think there's a big appetite for that genre that's not very satiated with the AAA developers. Like with other people, yes, but with AAA developers, they usually never touch this genre. I can't wait.